Hello, folks. This month we are going to talk about authentication. Authentication is how we prove to the computer we are who we say we are. Typically, we identify ourselves to the computer by entering a password. Recently, the safe use of passwords has come under question. Our passwords are under steady attack of being stolen by hackers. Plus, we make our passwords easy to guess. We don't make them very complex, and we don't do a good job protecting them. Having our passwords stolen can have disastrous consequences if the password is protecting a bank account, medical account, or a computer that contains our personal information. It is important we have a complex password and we protect its secrecy. You should be the only one to know your password. A strong password is one that is long and complex so that it cannot be easily guessed. However, it must be easy enough to remember so we don't have to write it down. Often, we create very simple passwords so we can remember them. We will sometimes use the same passwords for multiple accounts. While this is easy for us, it also makes life easy for the hacker. If your password is stolen or is easily guessed, a hacker can readily access one or more of your accounts. We all have this problem. We want to be safe, but we want easy access. We all have many different accounts and several passwords. We might be thought to suffer from password fatigue. It is a difficult problem to manage. Well, here's a tip to help you manage the password problem. It's not perfect, but it will help. Instead of trying to remember a password you have not used for a while, or one that is overly complex, let's create what is called a passphrase. And here's how we do that. Consider an event, perhaps a song lyric, or some circumstance that is unique and meaningful to you. For example, if you are a Boston Red Sox fan, perhaps the following phrase is easy to remember. I love the Boston Red Sox and Fenway Park. That would be easy for a Red Sox fan to remember. Now, come up with a method, also called an algorithm, of how to change your phrase into a password. Let's say you decide to take the first letter of every word. You then wind up with a password of ILTBRSAFP. What we wind up with is a hard-to-guess password that is easier for us to remember. And it's easier for us to remember because it's derived from a phrase that is meaningful to us. We only need to remember the method, or the algorithm, we use to construct that phrase. Now, you can vary your algorithm for deriving your password by using numbers, special characters, both upper and lowercase characters, as you see fit. The longer you make the password and the more characters you select from, the safer it is. You can further complicate the resulting password by varying the algorithm. You could start with the first letter of the first word and then the last letter of the following word, alternating for the entire phrase. Okay, companies understand the vulnerabilities associated with passwords, as well as the difficulties of remembering passwords. As a result of this, there are different types of authentication techniques being used each day and many more being developed. These different types of authentication fall into three basic categories. Something you know, abbreviated SYK, which could be a password or various pattern sequences that we put in on our smartphone. Something you have, which could be a credit card, an ATM card, a USB authentication stick, or even a smartphone. And then there's something you are, which could be a fingerprint, an iris scan, or perhaps heart rhythm. All of these attributes are unique to us. And these forms of authentication are increasingly available on smartphones and laptops. Now, rather than using just one of these types of authentication, such as a password, we can use a combination of these different authentication techniques to increase our protection. This technique is called multifactor authentication, and basically it is implemented by using multiple factors of authentication. When we use our ATM cards, we are using multiple factors of authentication. Think about it. We have the ATM card that we're using, so this is something we have, something you have, and then we have the PIN that goes along with the ATM card, and that represents something we know. So that's two factors of authentication that we use very frequently. Now, the protection here is we would need to lose two items in order to compromise our account. We would have to lose the ATM card, and we'd also have to have our PIN stolen. Now, many banks, email providers, and other critical service providers are encouraging us to use multi-factor authentication when accessing our accounts. One way this works is to set up a second form of access using our telephones or smartphones. We can arrange that when we log into our accounts, we receive a text message or a phone call with an additional one-time access code. Let's try this with a Gmail account I have set up. Okay, I'm going to go to Gmail here, and I'm going to go to this account. And it's going to ask me to log in, and we see here my username, william.vales2@gmail. Now I'm going to enter my password. Okay, so I've entered my password, and I'm going to say sign in, press the sign in. And now, here's my cell phone, and I'm receiving a phone call.
Hello, thank you for using our phone verification system. Your code is 7658665. Once again, your code is 7658665. Goodbye.
Goodbye. So that was through my cell phone. So Gmail, Google called me with this second form of authentication. I enter that, I say verify, and here I am in my Gmail account. Now, the base password to the account is something you know. That was the password that when I first signed into Gmail with my username. The phone, which is the second factor of authentication, is something you have. In addition to that, I received a second access code, which is only good for that one login, which is also something you know. So in order for my email to be violated with multi-factor authentication enabled, I would need to lose my Gmail password, I'd need to lose my smartphone, and I would need to lose the password that logs into my smartphone. Now, you can experiment with two-factor authentication using numerous email providers. I used Google using Gmail, but Yahoo is another candidate that you could experiment with. That's it for this month. Be productive on your computer, but be safe.